Welcome and thank you for tuning in Neptune Knives. So this video is in response to a question from Oromoto on what are my top 3 favorite knives. And it took me a long time to figure out, and I'm still trying to figure out, make sure the third one, but I got the first 2. And today I'm going to do, in no particular order, one of my top 3 favorite is the Lum Tanto Sprint Run with VG10 steel. It's a stainless steel liner lock by Spydie Co. You know, it's a folding Tanto, and it's got Teflon washers, all the stainless steel hardware, and the main thing is what hasn't been said about this knife will probably be said one day on other channels. Dark Child 57 it has this now. He's probably going to do a good video on that. And both Oromoto and Dark Child, their camera is better than mine. So if you really want to see the knife, go to their channel. Yeah, they're great vids, great reviews. I like Dark Child's whole size comparison thing, and it works really well. But for me, I thought I'd just kind of maybe just ramble on about some of the things that through using the knife that made me choose it as one of my favorite. First, we'll start off with this knife. Was designed by Bob Lum. Bob Lum was, it says here on the little card here, the education card, that's the first American custom knife maker to introduce the Asian Tanto style blade to Western knife circles. Now, Bob Lum has passed away, but before that, he was a custom knife maker for 30 years, 31 years, something like that. And so this design, even though this is a production model, you can tell a lot of custom knife maker logic and design that goes into it, along with Spydie Co's expertise on knife making. So first, because it's a little bit easier, I'll cover the durability of it and the quality of it. As for the steel VG10, you know, being that it's a Tanto, this gives this knife, as you saw in the previous portion, a lot of abilities. You know, between tactical to outdoor, you know, you have some options with this, and that's what made me choose it over a Sage 2. You know, and I really like the Sage 2, and I'll go over that in a second why. But what made me choose this is that, you know, VG10, you know, neither the Sage with S30V or the VG10 are going to do anything that a tool steel can do. So when you look at outdoor settings, basically, or everyday life, you know, all you really need is a good steel that's very corrosion and stain resistant, and VG10 is superior in that. And then also VG10 tends to roll rather than chip, which is another thing I prefer. Just like Chris Reeve, he doesn't make his Rockwell hardness that high on his knives because, you know, kind of like, you know, hey, you know, it's better just, you know, to you know, for him, he doesn't want, you know, I guess the everyday person to feel like his knives are cheap and chip, and they may not just realize that he just chose to make it softer and a hollow grind, which is what this is. And you know, if you were to kind of look at the Reeve and you know, that's kind of like a neat little trick. You know, when you don't got edge retention, you make it hollow ground, and you know, these are 2 good hollow ground blades, and this S30 but this VG10. I don't really like S30 because it, you know, if you saw in this last portion too, is, you know, VG10 is much easier to sharpen, and you can get a very good razor edge. So this knife is constructed in Japan, in Seiki City, where because VG10 is a Japanese steel. The G stands for gold. I don't remember what the V stands for, but regardless, in my steel video I talk about VG10. But it's very corrosion resistant, that's the first thing. Easy to sharpen, which is fine for what this knife is then, a sort of tactical outdoor use knife. So it matches. Now the next thing is, being that it's a stainless steel lock bar, you know, then this VG10 isn't going to wear out that stainless steel anytime soon, as opposed to, like, if you saw in the last video, the Valaton really dug into that stainless steel lock bar. Durability wise, a lot of the American made Spydie Co stuff, when it's like the paramilitary too, and some of the ones, especially with the bigger screws, the precision of the manufacturing, the alignment of everything is done very well. But in terms of quality, like overall, I would say less issues to deal with. Overall, more a solid, you know, in all the categories, you know what I mean, of like screw quality to somewhat the precision of everything and all the holes and how they're, you know, if we're talking custom knife makers, perfect. Japan, to me, is right there with the Taiwan, and sometimes those are above American made. I've had some Chinese Spyderco screws, you know, fall apart, and but I've had also American ones. But the Japanese ones, they seem built, like they built pretty durable. I mean, you still have to be careful, you know. But I've taken this apart quite a few times now, and it's held up. Now, so that in mind, this is just grade G10 and 2 stainless steel liners. Now, as a design, this knife has a lot of strong, you know, good quality features. First being that the pivot here, you know, you can see is a female, and so are all the other screws here. When they're flat on that side, they're females, and they have that look because they're all shouldered, meaning they don't spin around when you're unscrewing or screwing tight the other side. So it's all just one female that goes into the both stainless steel liners, you know, all the way through, with, you know, little dumbbell standoffs, nice, you know, looking kind of custom dumbbell standoffs, look really nice, and then male screws that screw into them. Next thing, now this is sort of modified. You know, you can see the little jimping right here, and this little hole is a little cut out more than it is on the other ones, but I'll show that comparison in a second. But it doesn't it doesn't cut you if it disengages. I mean, it's not like a formal choil, but at least it's something to where Bob Lum maximized the amount of blade in this sort of stick shape, which gives you more blade usually, but at the same time at least didn't grind that so far back to where if it did disengage it would fully just cut you. So that at least, you know, that's good. I mean, that's one thing I look for in a folder that I would consider using hard. Now for this knife, you know, I don't consider using this hard, but for me, any knife I carry, you know, I want it to be versatile. And in this one, definitely fits a lot of categories in terms of tactical use. So for example, its design, being that it's just a stick shape, you know, you can hold it in the traditional knife fighting way, which is like this. And if, you know, you lock it in, if you watch the video, you lock it in around this right here area, and then hold it. You know, hold it with all those fingers. Make it sit in your palm. Push it down with your thumb. All these fingers hold it down. You know, and rest against the palm and that knuckle. It doesn't go anywhere. Okay. And you look at the military, you know, and if you look, well, it's gonna be hard to show in this video, but I can just tell you. Okay, you just have to trust me on this one. The reach is about 1/4 inch or less more. For the you get about 1/4 inch or less more reach on the military, but Lum Tanto's 3.75 millimeter blade, 3.75 inch blade, while the military is a 4-inch blade, and you can see the size difference of the two knives. Now, like, look at the size of the handle compared to these two. You know, I mean, look at that. I mean, this knife is overall, when you just normally stand next to each other, 1 inch larger, but look how compact this one is, and you're getting basically just a 1/4 inch less reach if you were thinking about, you know, that specific aspect. And it's also a little bit of a slimmer profile too. So I mean, you're getting so much out of this, you know. So in terms of like tactical use, you know, you get a nice slicing, hollow ground, good reach, pocket folder, you know, blade. Now, blade thickness, you know, the Lum Tanto's got that great thickness all along the spine. You know, if you compare the military, you know, got it beat big time. And even Mr. Reeves' Zan, which is over 3 millimeters. The Lum Tanto is a 3 millimeter blade. The Zan is like a 3.7, something like the 6.7. Nevertheless, you know, you have a. But this is hard to show just because there are these little other slopes and bevels right here. But nevertheless, it is still a beefier tip. So design-wise, you know, you got females, all shouldered. You know, you have a nice solid tip. I guess a traditional Asian Tanto. You have that in case that doesn't lock. Now, one of the things problem with the design, though, I would say is first is the lock bar. Normally the lock bar, let me show you on these Lum Tantos, it kind of sticks. It doesn't stick out. It's flush with the handle. You can see it's like that. Now, so that's the first thing I would say. This is not safe for people to use left-handed because you can move the lock bar aside easily. For terms of tactical use, if you ever intend to stab anything with it, I definitely do not suggest even with this modification, I'll explain in a second, it should be a right-handed knife. That's really what it's for, a right-hander. I mean, if you're left-handed, learn how to use your right hand. You know what I mean? This is, again, just, it can disengage with the left hand. It's meant for right-hand use. The design just does not. Like a sage, you know, that's what I was considering. The sage, you can grip it left or right-handed, and even though you're actually touching that lock bar protrudes, you're not going to disengage it. While this design, you can. So, you know, it's easy to access because of that big cutout. So first thing I did for me is I just added some notches and try to kind of make it recess in a little bit more, you know. So where it is, if you have ever bent the lock bar in from hard use, you know, it's that feeling where it's kind of like it feels like it's sunken in there, but it's not, and it now doesn't have that problem as much. I would still not use it left-handed because I know of that, but I mean in terms of either way, and especially even my right hand, because that was an issue even with your right hand, it no longer is as much of a problem. It's an afterthought, and that's done with. Now, the pocket clip, you know, the knife is lightweight, and the G10's grippy enough, especially when gripped down hard. So it doesn't really follow the pocket. It's nice, you know. It goes in the pocket easy because this has an extra little lip, you know, that little lift up part. The spiral hole, they cut corners because, you know, it's Japan, you know, hey, you gotta save money. So the spiral hole edge can be a little scratchy if you use your fingernail. So, you know, bear that in mind, that you might want to sand that. And there's no jimping. Now, if it did have jimping, would it be better? I mean, I added jimping on that spot right there, which compared, and I actually think it looks better. Like this one looks very sterile, while this one has a more of a, to me, an edgy look to it. But that's just my personal call on that. But I do, if you were in person, I do feel that mine is a little better. And I'm going to add jimping eventually along the spine here, and just, you know, sand it into the stainless steel, not the G10, just the stainless steel, which would look something like this, which that improves it dramatically. And so I'm gonna probably add some back here, along here, maybe down here, maybe not, but at least for here, back for sure. And then that will help really secure it, but it's not necessary. It really is grippy and does lock in. Just depends what your uses are for it. Now, some things then like that could be improved. Well, this is not a fault of the knife. This is just I guess first design is, my question, does anyone know? Is Sal Glesser a cook part-time? Or like, does he just like always, maybe he's got so much fan mail, like, is there like a reason why Spydercos are always emphasizing slicing edges? Because even though this is hollow ground in 3mm, right there off the bat, that's not, you know, that's not a thick blade, really, you know, something hard to slice through things. The edge profile is really low, and VG10 being kind of soft, depending on what you're cutting, it starts to roll very easy. And that initial edge is kind of crap. And it just kind of like, you know, it's just all over the place. And I've been slowly trying to reprofile down, up, basically to like a 30-degree angle, more of a working angle. And I'm just wondering, well, are all Spydercos just never, you know, emphasizing a durable angle? I don't know. But regardless, what that gets to then is the grinding. This is the next thing. Now, I don't know what is with this, but it just seems like the Japanese people, they don't grind very well. That's all I have to say. The Delicas that are ZDP, which come from Japan, Seiki City, and these Tantos, you know, I have the other one here, but the point is, their blade grinding is just kind of all over the place. Like it's, as I've been working on this one side is more shallow of an angle, the other side is more, you know, more of a higher angle. The front on mine was not even on the tip. It was, you know, one side was kind of like further back, one side wasn't. I mean, I think this is some of the better ones. And then I've even had the front uneven. But the point is, if you do get this knife, you're going to have to realize that when it comes time to sharpen, you're going to have some skill at fixing all that nonsense of basically the edge itself, making it all lined up, getting the front to, you know, to be lined up and perfect. And because you'll notice as you start to go, it's like, you know, man, I mean, they're the land of like ninjas and samurais, and you would think that they could do this better, but honest, it just is all over the place. But that doesn't mean that the actual, you know, knife is, it's just they're grinding. The blade grinds are just kind of all over the place, so keep in mind that.